Jordan Matthews stood at the top of the grand staircase of his penthouse, looking out over the glittering lights of the city below. His fingers were drumming against the railing, a subtle manifestation of his restlessness. The view was magnificent, an endless expanse of glass and steel, a skyline that spoke of power, ambition, and success. And yet, in the middle of it all, Jordan felt a profound emptiness creeping in, something he couldn't name, but that tugged at his chest every time he tried to breathe. He glanced down at his watch. 5:42 p.m. Another long day was coming to a close, and yet he felt no sense of satisfaction. There was a time when he had lived for these moments, the brief windows of time between meetings, deals, and travel, when he could look at everything he had built. He had come a long way from his modest beginnings in a small town, fighting his way into the cutthroat world of corporate law, and now, here he was on top. But now, as the golden lights flickered across his office and the soft hum of his building's air conditioning vibrated in his ears, Jordan wasn't sure what he was working toward anymore. Was it success? Was it fulfillment? Or was it something else? Something less tangible, less definable? The reflection in the glass before him felt almost foreign, as though he were looking at a stranger's life. His tailored suit, the crisp white shirt with the perfect cufflinks, the polished shoes, everything about him screamed success, wealth, power. He had worked for it. He had fought for it. But it didn't feel like his life anymore. It was as if he were merely playing a role, a character in a story written by others. The mask was slipping. A sudden knock on the door broke his reverie. "Mr. Matthews, your 4:30 is here," came the voice of Sarah, his assistant, efficient and precise as always. She knew the drill. Jordan nodded silently, almost mechanically, and glanced at his reflection one last time. He adjusted his tie, pulling it just a little tighter, almost as if he could physically keep his mask in place that way. When he entered the conference room, his client, a wealthy real estate mogul named Warren Devereaux, was already seated, waiting. Warren looked up from his phone and smiled broadly, his teeth almost too white against his dark skin. He was a man used to the spotlight, a man who had built his empire with a blend of charisma and ruthlessness. Jordan couldn't help but admire him, even as he reminded himself that admiration didn't make the world a better place. "Good to see you, Jordan." "Thanks for squeezing me in," Warren said, standing to shake his hand. His grip was firm, a sign of confidence, or perhaps dominance. "Of course, Warren. You know I'm always available for you," Jordan replied, offering a polite smile as they sat across from each other at the polished table. He had said those words 1,000 times, and each time they felt emptier than the last. The meeting was supposed to be about finalizing the merger of two massive corporations. The paperwork was ready, the terms agreed upon, and the lawyers had done their job. All that remained was the formal signing. Jordan's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the momentary silence. He glanced at it, his eyes narrowing when he saw the name. It was a number he didn't recognize. The call was incoming, but he didn't pick up. He was in the middle of something important. Warren noticed the brief pause. "Something wrong, Jordan?" Jordan shook his head, quickly masking the moment of doubt that had crept into his mind. "No, just another business call. I'll deal with it later." Warren didn't seem to notice Jordan's discomfort. He tapped the table lightly, a sign that he was ready to move on. "Anyway, as I was saying, this deal is a game changer. Once everything's finalized, we're going to be at the top of the food chain. The competition won't know what hit them." Jordan nodded, his mind already racing through the financials, the logistics, and the countless other deals that had led to this moment. But his mind wasn't truly there. It was somewhere else, wandering through a maze of questions he didn't know how to answer. Was this all there was? Deals, contracts, endless meetings? He had worked so hard to get to this point, but now that he was here, he couldn't help but feel that something was missing. Warren continued to talk, his voice growing louder as he got more animated about the possibilities. "With the merger, we can expand into new markets. We're talking international expansion. You're going to be the key to making this happen, Jordan. You've got the reputation, the network, and the brains to take us to the next level." Jordan wasn't listening. His thoughts were elsewhere, on that phone call he'd ignored. There was a nagging feeling in his gut, something that told him he shouldn't ignore it. But the client was sitting right in front of him, and his professional mask had to stay intact. "So, what do you think? We're ready to go?" Warren asked, snapping Jordan back to the conversation. Jordan forced a smile. "Yes, everything looks good. We're good to go." The deal was done. The signatures were all that remained. The following morning, as Jordan walked into his office, he found himself feeling weighed down by the routine. Another day of deals and negotiations. Another day of pretending. The mask that had once felt like a natural extension of himself now felt suffocating, constricting his ability to breathe. It was as if he were wearing someone else's skin. His assistant Sarah had already left a stack of paperwork on his desk, some contracts to review, some proposals to sign. But before he could dive into the endless demands of his career, he heard his phone buzz again. This time, he picked it up immediately, his pulse quickening as he saw the name. It was a local activist group. They had been trying to get in touch with him for weeks now, hoping to enlist his help with a legal battle involving corporate greed and systemic racial inequality. He had ignored their calls before, but something about this particular message stood out. It felt like a summons, not just a request. Jordan's finger hovered over the screen for a long moment before he finally pressed play. "Mr. Matthews, we need you," the voice said, a woman's voice, calm but insistent. "There's a case that requires your expertise. It's about a corporation that's exploiting low-income communities in our city. We know you're one of the best, but we need someone who understands the bigger picture, someone who's not afraid to take risks. This is bigger than just business. It's about justice." Jordan put the phone down, his heart racing. The words echoed in his mind. It's about justice. How long had it been since he'd thought about anything other than the bottom line? He had fought to climb to this position, to achieve everything he had, but in doing so, had he sold a piece of himself? The mask, the one he wore so effortlessly, was beginning to crack. He picked up the phone again, this time dialing the number himself. The decision was made before he even realized it. "I'm in," he said, his voice steady but unsure. Underscore 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 underscore. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, press conferences, and legal paperwork. Jordan dove headfirst into the case, his mind wrestling with the challenges of balancing his own morals with the demands of his career. It wasn't long before he found himself on the other side of the table from his usual clients, fighting against the very system he had spent years building. The activist group, led by a passionate woman named Maya Jenkins, had quickly grown to trust Jordan. She saw something in him that the others didn't, something beneath the polished exterior, beneath the mask. "You're one of the good ones, Jordan," Maya had said one night, her eyes intense as they locked with his. "But we need you to take off the mask if you're going to help us." For the first time in years, Jordan felt a flicker of something deep inside him. It was like a dim light flickering to life in a dark room. He had spent so long pretending to be someone he wasn't that he had forgotten what it felt like to just be himself. But the question loomed large. What would it cost him to be real?